Hello and welcome to my little bookish corner of the internet. My name is Harriet. Today I'm going to be doing my spoiler-free review for the fantasy novel The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This book is one of those that I have seen the most mixed reviews for. People either really hate it or really love it, so I was really nervous to start it. But now that I have read it, I definitely want to share some thoughts with you and talk about my experience with it so that you can decide whether you do want to read it or not, or it may confirm how you felt about the book as well. So yeah, let's get into this, and it will be spoiler free, apart from of course talking about the synopsis, which is on the back, and then from there on I will try and keep it spoiler free for you. So yeah, let's get into it. If you didn't know what this story is about, we are following our main character, whose name I always say wrong, but I'm going to say it how I read it, which is Kvothe. I think it's pronounced Quoth or Quoth or Koth? I don't really know. There was an article on it, but I can't remember. So I am saying his name wrong, but that's just how I read it. So we are following Kvothe, and he owns an inn. So he's an innkeeper, and one day a person comes in called Chronicler and decides that he wants to find out about Kvothe's story because he's quite a famous person. He's in hiding at the moment and kind of denying who he is, but he eventually does open up, and it's literally Kvothe telling his story to the chronicler, and that's how it's written. And he's talking about his life from when he was a child all the way up until kind of current day, although he does skip through some bits, I believe, and I think that's what the second book is supposed to be about, but we'll get into that in a minute anyway. So yeah, we're just following his whole life and his story and what's happened to him and why it's made him the person he is today, comparing it to kind of the stories that people have made up about him and the way that people's lives get skewed by what other people see them as. So yeah, very interesting story style. I found it kind of unbelievable that someone will remember this much of their life in that much detail. Also, I think this takes place in one single night, him talking for this whole amount of time, which again is also kind of unrealistic, but it is a fantasy novel. I'm not going to think about that too much, but at times it did kind of take me out the story a little bit. But yeah, we're following him, and he basically starts off with his family and eventually ends up going to this kind of college where they teach you how to handle magic. And it's a very interesting magic system. I wouldn't say that it is kind of fully fleshed out for you. I don't know if that's going to happen in the second book, but you're given little snippets. It's not an info dump, which I quite appreciated. I don't like feeling like I'm just getting information chucked at me, and it wouldn't make sense for it to be like that in the way that the story is told anyway. So yeah, it was quite nice how you were given little snippets into how the magic system works, but I actually have no idea how it does work. So yeah, if you're looking for something that's like fully fledged out, gives you all the information about the lore and the way that the magic works, you're not going to get that from this book. I would say this book is a lot more kind of character focused, and it's trying to convince you to like the main character, who is undeniably unlikable because he is a bit of a pompous arse. It's strange though, because I've read reviews and people have said that they really despise him, and I don't think he's a good person. He's definitely morally grey, but I actually found his stories to be quite interesting. I know some people have literally DNF'd this book because they just couldn't read about this main character anymore. I'm so sorry if you're one of those people, and I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it. But I actually quite enjoy reading about a character that is kind of unlikable, because in a way I was still rooting for him because I've seen his whole kind of life story from when he was a child, the different things that he's been through. Now, one thing that I do know that people get really frustrated about is that this main character seems to be able to do almost everything completely perfectly the first time around. People love him, girls fall for him. He's just this amazing, wonderful human being who is also kind of a dick. So I understand why people don't like him, but I didn't necessarily feel that way. There are definitely times when things were happening that would never really happen, that you wouldn't be good at straight away, and he is this super magical, super powerful human. So I guess in a way that's unrealistic, but not more so than a lot of other fantasy novels, at least ones that were written, you know, decades ago. This isn't that old, so it's not like I can say, oh, it was written in a different time, because it wasn't really. I understand why people didn't like it, but there were definitely times within this book that I felt like he was going through a lot of stuff, especially when towards the middle of the book he has to kind of go off on his own, and the things that happen to him there, and the things that happen to him in college, the people that he meets, the people that he doesn't get on with. I felt like that made him feel a little bit more realistic and a bit more human, as opposed to this like super incredible magical human. So yeah, even though he was a bit of a dick, I actually found him to be quite realistic. Even if he was super powerful and really good at most things, I think that there was enough in here to give him kind of weaknesses, and that morally grey aspect made him very interesting to read about, personally, for me. Another thing that people really didn't like was the way that this author writes about women. The way that I read this is that's how Kvothe sees women. That's how he kind of envisions them in his mind. And it's written, when he's talking, he is talking about him when he was a kid and when he was a teenager, so obviously he's going to see women differently then anyway. For me personally, after reading Murakami, I don't think he can get any worse than that, so this was really mild for me. I didn't seem to have that problem with it, but I do know that some people really disliked it. So just keep that in mind when you go into it. It's not going to have the strongest female characters, which is frustrating. But like I say, I've read a lot worse, so it didn't seem to put me off too much, and I thought it was quite mild. There is also one kind of strong female character, but I don't like that they all seem to be kind of a romantic interest. That did seem to be the thing. But I mean, as a teenage boy, you probably think that every girl fancies you anyway, so it kind of made sense. Now, one thing that I didn't enjoy is how bloody long this book is. It's massive. It seemed to take me a really long time, and I had to set aside like an hour at a time to just try and get through chunks of it. Saying that, even though it was long, it didn't necessarily feel long. Not more so than like the Song of Ice and Fire series. I managed to read those books, so this should be pretty easy for me. It just is a really heavy and weighty book to carry around with you, so I wanted to get it kind of done. But I did really enjoy reading it. I found it very interesting. I found the main character, as I said, to be someone that I enjoyed reading about because he wasn't like a cookie cutter. He was horrible, he had bad traits, he had good traits as well, but I just found his character to be someone that I really enjoyed reading about, probably for all the wrong reasons. I liked a lot of the other characters in here, and I actually liked the way that it was told as well. I felt that even though it was unrealistic for someone to remember this much of their life in that much detail, I did enjoy the way that it was written, and it was kind of a unique writing style which I hadn't read before. So yeah, I don't know if I'll carry on with the series. I don't really know what's going on. There's a trilogy, right? But he hasn't written the third book or something. I have no idea. I don't know if I'm going to continue. It's a really long book, and it's just going to be a long series or trilogy, whatever it's going to end up being. And I have a lot more books on my shelf to read, so I don't know, maybe in the future, but definitely not right now. If you have continued with this series, can you let me know down below if you enjoyed it, what you thought of it, and if you think I should continue with it? Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I get why other people didn't, but those things didn't really seem to bother me. And yeah, I found it very fun. I thought it was really entertaining. It's not going to be a super high fantasy like Lord of the Rings. I wouldn't say it's particularly written well or very poetic or anything like that. Well, not that it's not written well, that's not fair. But it's not, you can't compare it to things like The Lord of the Rings, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it was really good. Not my favourite book ever. I don't know if I'll ever reread it, but I would actually recommend it to people. I found it really fun. So for me, it ended up being a 4-star rating. Definitely let me know down below if you've read this, what you thought of it. I know some of my frequent viewers really dislike this book, and I'm very sorry that I enjoyed it, and I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it, but there are so many more fantasy books out there that hopefully you can find one that you love. But that's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!